Hello good people of YouTube and welcome to my hobby channel. It's been a while and I thought I'd better do a quick hobby update because I'm at risk of disappearing into the ether, never to be heard from again. Although I haven't had a lot of time or energy to create YouTube videos and I've had to take a step back, I haven't been idle. I've been painting a production version of Baldwin for a friend of mine, and hopefully this particular model is going to end up in the Stuff of Legends collection and will eventually be photographed and added to my friend's website. So I've got him there alongside my original prototype version, which many of you will be very familiar with. So when I have had the energy to do some hobby, this guy here has taken up most of my time. I have also been painting some of my old miniatures and sculpts, and I'll come on to those in a second. And I've spent a little bit of time reading Clash of Banners, which was sent to me by Owen McCormack. Now I've promised Owen that I will do a review of these rules, and I will do a build and paint of these two lovely models that he sent me. So although I won't be doing that in this video, it is coming very soon. And I know Owen was at Salute. I didn't make it for obvious reasons, partly because I'm in no physical state to travel that distance, but also with my mental health issues. A huge room full of crowds is not my thing any longer. Anyway, Owen was very kind to send me all of this stuff too long ago now. So before I take a closer look at Baldwin here and just show you all the heads that I've painted, I did want to say a big thank you to everyone who reached out over the last few weeks to check that I was okay. Regards my surgery, which was almost a month ago, I've healed, so there's no problems there. The real issue that I'm suffering with at the moment is my mental health. I'm in quite a dark place and I'm just taking care of myself, which again has resulted in me stepping back a little from YouTube. Can't be helped, I'm afraid. That's just the nature of the beast. For those of you who are seeing Baldwin for the first time, basically he's a mega gargant. I use him in Warhammer the Old World. This version here was the prototype, and I did some magnetic hairstyles and hats on him. There are plenty of videos of me working on Baldwin and painting him. Painting him ended up being quite a challenge. It was a really big task. So when it came to doing the production version, I thought I'll just do a short painting video of all the highlights, but then of course I didn't actually do that. I did take a few short videos of various parts of the sequence. There is a video where I build this Baldwin and magnetize the heads. And as I said, there are plenty of videos where I've been sculpting this Baldwin, and you can see him basically in his early form and me resculpting a second version that could be cast in resin. Yeah, and for anyone who's wondering, Baldwin is this big. So that is a Bretonian archer. And yeah, this is how big Baldwin is. I think the scale height is just under 60 feet. He's well over 23 centimeters tall. So certainly between 50 and 60 feet in terms of scale height. So he is about the same size as a G.I. Joe or an Action Man, for anyone who can relate to that. Right, so if we take a quick look at the heads I painted, the lights are sort of bleaching out the subtle skin tones a little. That does happen a lot, and there's a bit of glare off the cutting mat, which I apologize for. But the first head that I sculpted and painted was obviously the original sort of Baldwin head. It was always my intention that Baldwin would fight with my Bretonian Old World army. So that's the resin version there, painted up. I also did this, which was a tribute to the Marauder Giant. Again, you can see in previous videos that I did some sculpting videos of this head, and if you want to check those out, please do. But that is basically my Marauder Giant tribute there. And again, for anyone who hasn't seen my previous videos, that is the original Marauder Giant there. And if I just bring the head down, you can see the head is bigger than the Marauder Giant's torso. So Baldwin is big. Right. Whilst I was sculpting heads, someone did ask me to do a mohawk. And this was probably the last head that I sculpted. And now that I've painted this one up, it's one of my favourites. I do quite like that. I think that's turned out quite nicely. Has a very old hammer or middle hammer feel to it. So I'm quite pleased with that. And that was, as I said, probably the last one I did. Now this one here is based on one of the original concepts I had for my prototype version of Baldwin. And again, if we come over to that, it was Baldwin with his magnetic hair, and I actually did a pineapple hairdo there. Apologies to anyone who's seen previous videos of Baldwin if this is a bit repetitious, but I haven't done a great deal else with my time over the last couple of weeks, so I just want to run over this before he gets shipped off to the States. So that is the sort of chaos or orc and goblin head as I envisaged it. Then of course there's the head with no hair, which again was a starting point for my prototype. So that was included when I resculpted Baldwin. And then this guy here, he was sort of based on some early Citadel giants that the Perrys sculpted back in the early 1980s, I think, or mid 1980s. And again, I figured he would work either with an old school, old hammer, pre-slaughter type army or warband, or he would work well with orcs and goblins on account of his silly hat. But anyway, there's that head. And then finally this head, and this head is actually the head that I used when I created Henri Le Grand, and that got included in the deal when the Battleforge put this into production. I'll just pause the camera for a second. And there is my prototype version of Henri Le Grand, and that is basically his head without the helmet now, because this is a prototype version, it's all one piece, and I was painting that up to go with my prototype Baldwin, to use either as mega gargants or unit fillers in my Bretonnian army. There will be more videos as I paint my Bretonnians that will feature these two here. And before I put Baldwin down and move on to other things, I've got my own resin version of Baldwin here, which I'm halfway through building, and he hasn't gone on his base yet, but I did magnetize the neck so that I could take some photos of the production version before it was painted. So I'm halfway through building that, and again, please check out my previous videos to see how I put this beast of a giant together. So there are my prototypes for Baldwin and Henri Le Grand, and they're actually on a shelf with some of the other giants that I've sculpted. I will do some videos in the future on these, but right now I'm parking the giants so I can get on with some different hobby stuff for a little while. The other thing I've been working on is just giving a few of my earlier sculpts a bit of a revamp. This pony and cart that I sculpted years ago, this did actually feature, I think, on the cover of my painting fantasy figures book. It was part of a large swarm of halflings and ogres, and so I've got boxes full of miniatures that were sort of painted to this standard. Before that happened, I did have some even earlier versions of some of my carts, and this one here did actually end up on the Wargaming table at Salute. I'm not sure exactly when, but it would have been somewhere between sort of 2010 and 2012, give or take a year. And I did recently repaint this, probably a couple of years ago. There were some kind of bespoke bits on it where I'd sculpted parts that that weren't in the production version of the cart. The ponies were very kind of cartoony in their style, and I started to lean into that when I was painting this one. But this is for my classic Halfling range, which the Battleforge still sell. And there are some old crates and sacks and bags and things that I also sculpted. So I started painting or repainting this because I'm putting together a Kings of War Halfling army. So as well as Warhammer the Old World, I wanted to try something a little bit different, and that's how I ended up there with that one. But over the last couple of weeks, I thought I'd give the same miniature that I showed you a couple of minutes ago a bit of a reboot. So I changed the wheels. Again, these are wheels that I sculpted for the Battleforge, and they do exist even if they're not on sale at the moment. But leaning into the sort of cartoon style of my early sculpting, I wanted to bring that out a bit more with some bright colours and using speed paints and things. And so this is a project now that I'm working on. I can show you a little bit more of what I've been doing, but I can't show you everything just yet because it's not ready. But anyway, whilst I've been unable to shoot YouTube videos and I haven't felt up to doing much, I have at least been spending a little bit of time painting some old miniatures that were just lying in boxes. So I hope you can see that. So that's a bit of a reboot that I'm giving my old sculpts to bring out that kind of cartoon feel. I've also got a sort of a horse, a pack horse, one with and without a load. Now, I'll just try and get that in focus. These I sculpted years ago, and I'm just redoing the bases. This is a base that I finished, but obviously I need to paint the rims. And then I'm just trying to enhance the paint job on the pony itself. I don't want to completely obliterate it because it is an example of my painting as it was sort of 15 years ago. So I didn't want to completely annihilate that, but I am just going to give it a bit of a refresh with some glazes and some extra highlights. So that's a work in progress, as is this here. I will be using speed paints with glaze medium and matte varnish to glaze these to kind of add some depth and try and make the miniatures pop in the way that this style of painting does. But not too much, because I still want some of these miniatures to work with either Kings of War, which could be a little bit grimy and earthy, or potentially with Warhammer the Old World. So there's a mix of stuff there that I've been working on, and because it's Easter, I also dug out a really old sculpt that I did of an Easter Island statue, sort of half buried in the ground, and I based that up and just put a few little bits of plants and things on there. Now normally when I base things up, I get the paints out and perhaps some weathering powders, and I just grubby things up, which you can see on that one there. But I've decided not to do it with these because I think these are going to have a place in the more sort of cartoony style that I'm currently working on. So they're not entirely finished. I think I might need to highlight that stone there, but it's the same sculpt, and I just position them all slightly differently on the bases. Made some of them lean, but that's a nice little terrain piece for hopefully some future wargaming projects. And this is something else that I've been working on in conjunction with revamping some of my old sculpts. Again, leaning into the sort of cartoony style. A lot of my early halflings are quite goofy and cartoony, and although this one is painted in a slightly sort of grim, dark, grubby kind of way, I will be repainting some examples of my halflings in very bright colours to give them that kind of cartoony look, and that is what this is all about here. So I basically went through a box of old castings and sculpts that I had lying around, and I started painting and basing up my old models to work on a wargaming table that is slightly cartoony, a little bit Wizard of Oz. This is all work in progress, but it is a little project that I'm currently working on. When I have the energy now, obviously that's a Bretonian archer, but I may extend the sort of the bright painting style to a selection of early old hammer miniatures as well, and see if I can get those to fit in. I sculpted some sheep a long time ago, and I've got a set of these which I'm painting up for historical war games, so on muddy fields, and they're sort of grubby and quite dark. These aren't finished yet, but I've been painting these so they have a bit of a pop to them, and they look, hopefully they'll look good in this kind of style that I'm working on here. And then obviously just little things that I sculpted here, like a haystack that I painted that ages ago and just gave it a refresh with a spray of a zenithal spray of white, and then used some washes and contrast paints and speed paints. So I've kept that one loose so it could go on the back of a cart there. And then I've got things like the stubborn pack mule that I sculpted, which I've done in a couple of different colours. So really, as I said, I was just going through some old miniatures of mine and giving them a different treatment, and hopefully leaning into my early sculpting style. And this was one of the reasons why I decided to do that, because this is a unit of halflings that I sculpted back in the early 2000s up to sort of 2010. And I've given these quite a kind of dark, muddy treatment on the bases, and I was painting these up for Kings of War. But this unit I painted up, I think maybe 2-3 years ago, and then it got put to one side and I didn't do anything with it. Now I've got lots of these guys kicking around, so based on the stuff I've just shown you, I am going to do some halfling units that I'm going to paint to look very cartoony and do all the cobble paving on the bases and everything. And that's just a little project, as I said, that I've been working on whilst I've not had the energy to do anything else like YouTube video. And then finally, now I've put away all my derpy sculpts from the last few decades, I'm just going to take a quick look at this because, as I said, Owen contacted me and asked me if I'd like to do a review of his rules, and the answer is yes, I would love to. And also these miniatures, I've left these sealed so far because I will be doing an unbagging, a building and painting, and I'm probably going to do the build and paint before I do the review of the rules, simply because of the amount of time involved. This will be a nice way to get back into doing some building and painting videos, and just kind of get my focus back on the hobby. These are resin, these two, and they are very lovely models. They do feature in the book, and as I said, I will be doing a review of this. I did promise Owen that I would, although the promise was made before I ended up having my operation. Anyway, Owen has been very gracious about the delay, and as I said, I know he was at Salute last weekend, but I just wanted to quickly flick through without bending the spine on this too much, just to show you the quality of the workmanship and all the effort that's gone into this. It really is a lovely rule book. I'll just focus in on some of the photos in a second. But in terms of production values and quality, it's lovely. And there is a little note on the back there. Camera strobing. But I will do, as I said, I will do a proper review of this in the coming weeks. So I have had a flick through, I have had a quick read, and of course I did spot things like these notes and pictures on modelling and converting miniatures. I'm a huge fan of that kind of thing. And then you've also got these beautiful photographs of what look like periplastics, maybe some perimetals as well. Again, I'll just show you the photos there. Some very nicely painted models. And some different factions, I guess you'd call them, or companies. So yeah, I am really looking forward to having a read of this from cover to cover, and to give it a go when I've got some of my own miniatures painted up. So thank you very much, Owen, for sending that. And as I said, apologies that it's taking so long to get around to doing it, but I did have to get Baldwin painted and my stamina back. Once again, thanks very much for watching. I hope it won't be too long before my next YouTube video. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and please subscribe to my channel to see more videos like this. Look after yourselves, and I hope to see you soon.